Okay. Good morning. Welcome everybody to the inaugural 2022 Pension Subcommittee meeting. We are hearing three bills today: Senate Bill 47, Senate Bill 141, and Senate Bill 115. We are going to go in that order, so slightly different than the order folks might have. Again, 47, 141, and then 115. I'd also like to welcome Marty Novin and Ann Gothrop from the system. Thank you for joining us as always and providing us with your counsel. I think we should just dive right into our three bill hearings. Senator Carter, thank you so much for being here. We have Senate Bill 47. I have you and two witnesses in favor and then a few unfavorable. So we'll take Senator Carter, the Comptroller, and then Mr. Franklin in that order. Ready when you are, Senator.
Thank you. Good morning, Madam Chair. I want to first start by saying it's an honor to be before you this morning. I have not had many bills before your committee or your subcommittee, and so hopefully that will mean that there will be some mercy if I don't fully know your protocols. I also want to first acknowledge the esteemed and wonderful Comptroller for the City of Baltimore, Bill Henry. I'm very, very thankful and honored to have him in support of this legislation. And so with that, I'll dig right in. Senate Bill 47 is part of the ongoing and critical effort for police accountability. The bill establishes that law enforcement officers' pensions may be subject to forfeiture of benefits in whole or in part from the state retirement and pension system or a local pension system when a law enforcement officer is found guilty of a felony, perjury, or misdemeanor related to truthfulness while on duty. In 2022, we continue to see reports of officers in Maryland and across the country convicted of felonies such as rape, murder, and other serious crimes that benefit in the millions from taxpayer-funded pensions. Often, the victims of these heinous crimes are the taxpayers themselves. In Maryland, this phenomenon continues unchecked by current law, while 26 other states have already codified remedies. Senate Bill 47 puts Maryland on par with these other states. I last introduced this legislation in 2014 as a member of the House, and given that the problem persists, it is unacceptable to continue turning a blind eye. Allowing citizen-funded payouts to law enforcement officers who egregiously violate the laws they are sworn to uphold, endangering the public in direct conflict with their public appointment to protect and serve cannot continue. Senate Bill 47 tackles this problem by allowing the forfeiture of pensions for officers who are convicted of, plead guilty to, or nolo contendere to felonies committed in the line of duty. Concerns for the financial needs of spouses, dependents, or affected law enforcement officers are also addressed through the provisions in this bill. This would ensure that financial obligations of these officers, such as child support, alimony, marital property rights, can still be honored through the pensions. It also addresses potential tax qualification issues raised in deliberations about the bill in previous years. Maryland must step in line with other states in addressing this issue of taxpayer payouts through pensions to law enforcement officers violating the law. This bill pushes us closer to our law enforcement accountability goals through the establishment of pension forfeiture for individuals who abuse their power and sully the name of honorable officers who do their jobs every day. As such, I urge this committee to give a favorable report to Senate Bill 47. I just also want to say that I forgot to acknowledge that a lot of work was put in by your counsel, Mr. Anthony. He did a yeoman's job, and because of a lot of his hard work, I honestly believe this is a very thorough, a very fair, and a very well thought out bill. And finally, I have good news for the committee. I am withdrawing the next bill, Senate Bill 141. And the reason is, I think that it, as drafted, it doesn't convey my initial desire, which was, and I just briefly will state with that, it's something that I think we should take up in another time. This is the first step with this bill, but that bill addressed those pensions where officers are not actually convicted, but are found administratively guilty, which is the majority, because very few officers are ever convicted of anything. But we'll take that up another time. So I will be withdrawing Senate Bill 141. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Any questions for the senator? Okay, Mr. Comptroller, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me here. Pardon me while I adjust my testimony very quickly to the fact that I am now only supporting the one bill. Good morning, Madam Chair and honorable committee members. My name is Bill Henry. I am the Comptroller for Baltimore City. I am appearing before you this morning to express my support now solely for Senate Bill 47. As Comptroller, I am one of the 3 citywide elected officials who are responsible for Baltimore's fiscal policy as members of the Board of Estimates. For several years now, the board has regularly dealt with settlement agreements requiring the city to pay for damages inflicted on the people of Baltimore by law enforcement officers. The history of deliberate infliction of harm by the Gun Trace Task Force has been documented so thoroughly it is now common knowledge. Over the last 5 years, the Board of Estimates has approved over $14.3 million in Gun Trace Task Force related settlements. We have had to compensate citizens for the actions of police officers who were themselves then found guilty of crimes and terminated from the department. The city has paid out claims for these officers' wrongdoing, yet the same officers have been allowed to keep their pensions. I'm here because if the city is going to be stuck paying for their crimes, we should have the authority to recover our own damages from the officers' pension benefits. We should not have to continue paying for police officers' criminal conduct without having any recourse. A change in state law to allow forfeiture of pension benefits is the right thing to do, both fiscally and morally. The General Assembly recognized this in its deliberations over last year's law enforcement reform legislation, HB 670. That bill contained a forfeiture provision which was amended out before final passage. I'm urging you to right that wrong now. The most important consideration here for my constituents, the people of Baltimore City, is that pension forfeiture legislation be enacted as soon as possible. Thank you, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you so much. Any questions for the Comptroller at this time? Okay, Mr. Franklin.
Good morning, everyone, members of the committee. Thank you so much for this opportunity to testify before you this morning for this very important piece of legislation. And now, as what Senator Carter said, this would be for Senate Bill 47. Real quickly, 34 years in Maryland law enforcement is where I served with the Maryland State Police, from which I retired as a major. I then worked for the Baltimore Police Department as a commander of training for 4 years, and then I went on the Maryland Transit for a number of 6 years. In the past, executive director of the Law Enforcement Action Partnership, which I now represent for this particular piece of legislation. The Law Enforcement Action Partnership was formed in 2002 as a national organization of law enforcement professionals who are working to improve public safety from coast to coast. None of our thousands of nationwide members have voiced any opposition to this pension revocation legislation relative to criminal convictions of police officers. And the reason for such support is pretty simple. We have taken oaths to serve the public, and our oath is literally our contract to the public for this service. And if we violate that oath, which is a contract, then we should not, well, put it this way, we should forfeit all benefits, such as publicly funded pensions. Additionally, we, the police, have always said that crime should never pay. Imagine being convicted of falsifying overtime for thousands of dollars. Should that employee then receive monetary benefits if convicted? Should they be rewarded for lying to the public in courts of law? How can any of us who have vowed to uphold the law not support this legislation? And I think what's important is what Senator Carter said, is that there are remedies in place for family members and for special circumstances regarding these funds. So it's not a blanket policy. And I also agree with what Comptroller Henry just said regarding the funds being made available for restitution for when these police officers commit crimes. We got to understand, when you're convicted in a court of law, you then become a criminal. And we should, have the same requirements for a citizen who has been convicted of any criminal activity. They pay the cost. And it is a great deterrent for those who do wear the uniform and wear the badge. So with that, myself and the Law Enforcement Action Partnership, vow support for Senate Bill 47. Thank you. And I'm available for questions also.
Thank you, Mr. Franklin. Any questions for Mr. Franklin or the Comptroller or Senator Carter before we move to unfavorable? Senator Quarterman.
Thank you. Quick question, and I guess possibly Senator Carter may be able to answer this. I wanted to hear the other testimony first before asked. Are there any other employee groups that are subject to forfeiture?
I'm not aware. I think that's actually a question for your counsel, but the other bill that I've withdrawn, the goal of that was to endeavor to address other groups, because that is something that we've discussed before. And it's my belief that it should be extended to other groups where it's applicable, but this is specifically about law enforcement. And as I stated, it's another step in the direction of requiring or ensuring law enforcement accountability. And I would also mention that there is a specific and unique issue with law enforcement that does not exist with other groups of employees. Thank you.
Okay.
Senator, in your fiscal note, page 3, and I'm going to ask Philip to fill in any blanks, but there are 6 elected officials who were subject to forfeiture under certain circumstances: the governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, comptroller, treasurer, or secretary of the state.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Did I miss anything, Philip? Looks like.
Okay. Also, the General Assembly has a forfeiture provision.
All right. Thank you. We have Mr. Boatwright.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Can you hear me? Is my audio good? My name is Clyde Boatwright, and I represent as the president of the Maryland State Fraternal Order of Police. We represent over 21,000 active law enforcement officers throughout the state of Maryland. And I say that because you will have people to portray themselves as though they're representing the active police officers, but they're not. The voice comes from us, the Maryland State Fraternal Order of Police. The one question I have to ask is, when does it stop? We spent all of last year on police reform. We've significantly changed policing in the state of Maryland to address a few people who were criminals acting as though they were police officers. They are now in jail where they belong. There's no group that does not, there's no group that exists that hate bad police officers more than the Maryland State Fraternal Order of Police. We're glad they're out of our profession, and we want to continue to provide safety for our communities. A couple of things I wanted to point out about this piece of legislation is that police pensions are a contract between our local jurisdictions and the police officers that they are trying to attract and also retain. We're seeing historic levels of violence throughout our state. One is because we are not attracting and retaining police officers. And one of those tools that we use to attract and retain police officers is the pension system. Once that contract is signed, if we start taking pensions away from police officers, what's next? The healthcare. These pension benefits now directly affect the families, the spouses, and children dependents of our police officers. And they depend on these monies when the police officer retires. So I think that we really need to look at the impact of who will be affected by this, the collateral damage that it's going to incur. And we need to really start attracting the best and brightest again. So the only way we can do that is if we can stop pointing the finger at police. I think we've done enough as it relates to police reform. And let's try to see if some of the things that we enacted last year can work before we start taking benefits away from our officers. And I'll stand for any questions from anyone from the panel.
Thank you so much, Mr. Boatwright. Any questions? Seeing none, I want to refer to the committee in your packet on your laptop. Sorry, it's not printed as we would be in person. We have written testimony from the Maryland Chiefs of Police and Maryland Sheriff's Association, as well as the Maryland Troopers Association and the Office of the Attorney General as information. Okay. With that, Senator Carter, thank you so much for being here. And Mr. Comptroller, so good to see you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Okay, that ends the hearing for Senate Bill 47. And we will switch back to the original order and Senate Bill 115, Senator Jackson. This is
Madam Chair, members of our committee. For the record, Senator Michael Jackson representing District 27 on behalf of Senate Bill 115. Senate Bill 115 is a piece of legislation that makes a couple of changes to the current formulas in the law enforcement officers' pension system. The bill raises the cap of retirement benefit payments from 65% to 70%, and it increases the retirement benefit multiplier from 2% to 2.5%. Because of my background in public safety as both an elected county sheriff and a former FOP president, this issue is very important to me. The recruitment and retention of quality, experienced police officers is critical to ensure effective policing in Maryland. The changes proposed in this legislation will be a small step to improve both recruitment and retention efforts for Maryland law enforcement agencies who are facing drastic shortages in the applications to fill positions, much needed positions. This bill is straightforward and modest, and a modest effort to help level the benefit playing field for agencies that take part in the law enforcement officers' pension system with both competing agencies and the private sector. And Madam Chair and members, there are a number of ways to seek parity. With that, Madam Chair, I would ask the committee for a favorable report of this bill. I would happily stand for questions, and we have a panel that certainly can assist with the technical questions that may arise. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Jackson. Any questions for the senator? Seeing none, I have a number of folks signed up to testify. We're going to go in the following order: Mr. Penman, Ms. Bruns, and Mr. Roby. Mr. Penman.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and distinguished members of the Pensions Subcommittee and of the Budget and Taxation Committee for the opportunity to propose and explain Senate Bill 115, also known as the Law Enforcement Pension System Benefits Bill. I also want to specifically thank Senator Jackson for his service and the sponsorship of this bill. On behalf of over 300 members of the Harford County Deputy Sheriff's Union, I believe this legislation will not only improve the lives of sworn deputies, but also the Harford County Sheriff's Office, but many officers across our state. As everyone knows, and as was testified earlier, according to the Uniform Crime Reporting System, crime has risen at an alarming rate across our nation. During this crime increase, respect for law enforcement has diminished, causing police officers to be challenged, confronted, and even murdered. This is evident from the 157 law enforcement non-COVID line of duty deaths in 2021. These conditions have resulted in many police officers leaving the profession, as well as a drastic reduction of young, competent candidates from seeking a career in law enforcement. Collectively, these factors will have grave consequences in our community and among our law enforcement ranks. Therefore, I believe we need to do more now to ensure we are continuing to hire the most qualified and prepared candidates to be members of society to handle the stressors of becoming law enforcement in today's day and age. Although money is not a driving force of why most choose this career path, it is a consideration, and an adequate and attainable pension in retirement could be a large attraction for would-be applicants. This is why, again, on behalf of the Harford County Deputy Sheriff's Union, I'm proposing an improvement of the retirement benefits. The Harford County Sheriff's Office is currently enrolled in the Maryland State Retirement System under the Law Enforcement Pension System known as LEOPS. Also in LEOPS are approximately 22 other agencies and local, state and local agencies, to include Maryland Transportation Authority and the Natural Resources Police. Currently, under LEOPS retirement guidelines, members will receive 2% of their average final salary for every year of service. So at 25 years, the members will receive 50% of their average highest 3 or 5 years based on when they were hired. Members also have the option to max out that benefit at 32.5 years of service at 65% of their salary. Although the Harford County Sheriff's Office and the Maryland Transportation Authority are state agencies, the LEOPS retirement benefit is noticeably lower than other state law enforcement agencies, such as the Maryland State Police.
You're muted, Mr.
5% per year. While participating agencies of LEOPS applaud Maryland State for ensuring the state police has such a competitive pension system, the purpose of this proposed legislation is to bring the agencies enrolled in LEOPS closer to parity with the state police. Therefore, I'm proposing that LEOPS pension system increase earned percentage per year to 2.5, allowing members to earn 62.5% at 25 years and a max earning at 28 years of 70%. It should be noted that the union members and other LEOPS stakeholders under that, this proposed legislation would understand a slightly higher contribution rate. Again, I want to thank you all for the opportunity to present this legislation on behalf of the Harford County Deputy Sheriff's Union. And I'm asking the members of this pension subcommittee for a favorable review from the Senate Bill 115. With that, I'll conclude my remarks and answer any questions you may have. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Penman. Any questions? Okay. Ms. Bruins. You're muted, Ms. Bruins.
Sorry. Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. I'd like to first take this opportunity to thank Senator Jackson for sponsoring this bill. I'm Veronica Bruns, a corporal with the Maryland Natural Resources Police and the treasurer of the State Law Enforcement Officers Labor Alliance, otherwise known as SLEOLA, which is the exclusive representative for approximately 1,800 active law enforcement officers. This includes 8 agencies which are affected by Senate Bill 115. The Maryland Natural Resources Police, Field Enforcement Bureau, Maryland State Fire Marshals, Maryland Capitol Police, Department of Health Police, Maryland Vehicle Administration Police, Department of Public Safety and Correctional Services, Intelligence and Investigative Division. Sorry.
We may have, Kim, I believe we might have dropped Ms. Bruns. Hopefully she'll be able to rejoin us. Give it just a second. Senator McRae, did you have a question for Ms. Bruns?
I guess it's for maybe the sponsor and for the previous speaker.
Okay, let's take your question now while Ms. Bruns gets back online.
No problem. I guess for the previous, I work my way backwards. For the previous speaker, could you let us know in reference to how Harford County government have they taken a position on the respective bill? And then I guess for the senator, Mako has a piece of testimony in reference to requesting that it be enabling versus telling them. Could you just give me your comments or if you're amenable to their amendment?
Yes, again, it's Aaron Penman from the president of the Deputy Sheriff's Union. I have spoke to our county executive, Barry Glassman, on several occasions about this bill. On the surface, he's supportive of the legislation, but like any county executive or major stakeholder in the county finances, they want to know what the bottom dollar is. So we've submitted this bill a number of times in the past, not last year, but several years prior to that. And it did have a fiscal note. On the fiscal note, if you break it down, I believe it's close to $1,300 a member. This was according of course, according to 2 years ago per year. So once we have a full fiscal note, I'll be able to present that to the county executive so he can make a determination. With that said, I know that, each municipality or jurisdiction is going to have their own evaluation process. So we're hoping for a favorable review in each of those jurisdictions as well.
And Madam Chair, if I might.
Yes.
Yes, I did speak to Mako, Senator McRae, and as I mentioned in my statement, parity means a lot of things. And typically what parity means, having done this for a few decades now, parity means just step in the right direction. So whatever it takes to step in the right direction to ensure that the professionals that are providing this vital service understand that we are working with them to achieve parity, and it's all relative, obviously. We're willing to work on that. So I'm willing to work with Mako. I'm willing to work with the panelists and obviously with my colleagues to move in that direction. So
Thank you, Senator Jackson.
yes, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Of course, Ms. Bruns, we apologize. This is the challenges of a virtual meeting. Thank you for understanding. We'll get back to your testimony now.
Sorry, thank you. But yes, to add to that again, the Department of Public Safety Correctional Service Intelligence and Investigative Division and the Warrant Apprehension Unit of the Division of Parole and Probation in the Department of Public Safety and Correctional Services. So those are going to be the 8 agencies that I'll be also testifying for their members, part of SLEOLA. I'm here to testify in support of Senate Bill 115. Recruiting and retention continues to be a struggle in our state for law enforcement agencies. In the past 5 years, an overwhelmingly number of agencies have seen recruitment drop from several thousand applicants to barely several hundred. In order to recruit and retain the most qualified law enforcement candidates, agencies must be competitive with their benefits package. Senate Bill 115 will increase the multiplier for years of credible service from 2% to 2.5%. This will allow members of the law enforcement officers pension system to retire with a maximum of 70% benefit at 28 years of service, instead of our current maximum 65% benefit at 32.5 years of credible service. Under the current benefits package of LEOPS, members who retire at 25 years only receive 50% of their salary, while those members of SLEOLA in the Maryland State Police who are in the state police retirement system receive 63.75% of their salary with the same years of service. This adjustment under Senate Bill 115 will allow for, sorry, I don't know why I keep it cutting out. This adjustment under Senate Bill 115 will allow for the other 8 agencies in SLEOLA that SLEOLA represents to receive parity with the Maryland State Police, who already receive 2.55% for every year of service and achieve their maximum benefit of 71.4% at 28 years of service. Therefore, on behalf of the State Law Enforcement Labor Alliance, I would like to thank the sponsor for this bill and would ask the committee for favorable support of this important legislation.
Thank you, Ms. Bruns. And again, apologies for the virtual hearing challenges.
Yes.
Okay, any questions? All right, Mr. Roby, thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Chair Alfred. How are you? Good job with those technical difficulties, by the way. Good morning, Eric Roby, Director of Government Affairs and Community Affairs. I also head up the recruiting efforts here in Harford County for the Sheriff's Office, and we're pleased to be here this morning to speak in favor of Senate Bill 115. I think as you've heard from the speakers before me, it's clear nationwide there's a shortage of men and women looking to go into a career in law enforcement field. And there's a whole host of reasons of why that is, whether it's the difficulties of the job, the new challenges that have been placed on law enforcement, the dangerous aspects with all the police officers that we're seeing across the nation that are being killed in ambushes in the recent months, the starting pay. But one thing's clear here. We must do everything we can to reverse that trend and ensure the profession remains strong by recruiting and retaining honorable men and women to protect and serve our community. 3 years ago here in Harford County, as the last speaker was talking about, we would see 400 to 500 individuals that would apply to be law enforcement deputies. These numbers in our last 2 recruiting campaigns have dropped to One was below 100 applicants. The other one was just over 100 applicants. So we are certainly not seeing the same numbers that we were seeing previously. So we're seeing departments out there that are hiring, looking to offer bonuses of $15,000 for new applicants to join their agencies. We're even seeing retention bonuses from some of our agencies in Delaware and New Jersey. They're trying to keep their officers from going to other jurisdictions that are offering these $10,000 to $15,000 recruiting bonuses. So for us, SB 115 offers an additional tool in the toolbox to help recruit and retain professional men and women to join the ranks of law enforcement. These additional enhancements to the pension will ensure that these potential applicants are able to work for our agency and know that they can retire with the support of the community, the elected officials, and the agency that they serve. So very much appreciate you having us in for this early morning meeting, and we hope for a favorable report on 115.
Thank you, Mr. Roby. As I mentioned before, we usually meet at 8:30, so this is a treat to start at 9 today. Any questions for Mr. Roby? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I will also refer the committee. We have one more favorable from written testimony in your packet from the Fraternal Order of Police. Next, favorable with amendments, Mr. Kevin Canale from the Maryland Association of Counties.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Kevin Canale here on behalf of the Maryland Association of Counties in support with Senate Bill 115 with an amendment. I want to thank Senator Jackson for working with us. And we did have a conversation about this bill as we did in 2020. And really what we're asking for here is some flexibility. So several years ago, the state offered local jurisdictions the opportunity to opt in to LEOPS. Several have. And we're just concerned that as the bill is drafted, it sort of changes the rules of the game after counties have already opted into the program. So we think that there is an opportunity here for a local option amendment. It could say that, you have a one-time option to decide whether or not to ride on to this enhanced benefit that's offered by the state. There is some precedent here. The last time the state enhanced its pension system, it provided counties and municipalities 1 year to decide whether or not to opt in or out. So there's a conclusive time frame there. I think that could be appropriate here. So again, we're happy to work with the sponsor of the committee and all of the other stakeholders to get to a place where we're all comfortable. But we do think that a local option amendment is appropriate here, and we'd ask for a favorable report with that amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Canale. Any questions? All right. I neglected to mention in the last bill hearing, Ms. Gothorpe and Mr. Novin are here if we do have any questions of the system. All right. With that, Senator Jackson, thank you so much. That ends the witness list that I have here. And that should wrap up our work for today. I will remind the subcommittee that our next meeting is February 10th. I think that's scheduled tentatively for 8:30. It depends on our workload, whether we can come in at 9 and get an extra half an hour of sleep. But we will certainly let the subcommittee know beforehand. Are there any motions on the floor or Zoom? Is there a motion to adjourn? Senator Griffith, and is there a second? Thank you, Senator Eckert. Always bumbling on the first virtual hearing. Thank you all so very much. We are adjourned. I will see everybody. We'll see everybody on the floor and on February 10th. Thank you.
Thank you.